As we continue our tour of some of the greatest oval racing circuits in all of North America, we find ourselves here today at the Richmond Raceway. This tiny short track located in the heart of Virginia has been host to racing since the mid-50s, and NASCAR has been coming here for a very, very long time, and it always seems to present some fantastic short track racing. Hello everyone, my name is DJ Clark, joined here in the booth by Jack Oliphant with David Christie as our director and producer by the scenes for round 4 of the WSL NASCAR Series EU, powered by SIM3D and Go for the Gap. Well, Jack, last week we had a little bit of a caution fest out at Charlotte, but a little bit of a tighter track, a little bit closer confines, and it could change things up a little bit. We were talking about before the broadcast that this short track format may actually promote the drivers to be a little bit more cautious, a little bit safer, and we could see a little bit more green flag running today. Yeah,
I love your optimism, DJ. No, I'm kidding. It's that's the hope, isn't it? And it should be very entertaining regardless. The drivers should have learned a few lessons from last week potentially as well. And the D-shaped oval here might give us just that little bit of extra sort of fear put into the drivers, as you say, to sort of almost scare them off going too silly or doing anything they shouldn't be doing. We also have a new yellow flag rule, apparently, which we will get into a little bit later on. But I believe, DJ, we can actually have a look at the championship standings, because obviously Charlotte, you said, a bit of a crash fest, but it did leave us with a very interesting championship.
It did indeed. Sean Campbell able to pull out about a 4-point advantage over Harry Wills, and very, very tight from there on back with Brody Menard. Only 1 point back from Wills. Bruno tied with Brody. Loris Muller only 2 points back from them, and Kevin Stam only 11 points back of that entire championship standing. Again, another close battle there for 6th with Saoirse Fitzpatrick, Jonathan Havey, Isaac Rain, and Matthew Heatrick. Everybody certainly being within striking distance here. It is very, very close racing, and it's exactly the kind of point standings that you tend to see in NASCAR-style racing. You never know who's going to win. You never know who's going to be able to take that top step and maybe just eke themselves up in the championship.
Yeah, the championship's almost as close as the times we come to expect in qualifying, and a good example of that is the gap between the top 2 right now, between Isaac Rain and Errol Erosky. I believe Errol is a new driver to the championship. I don't remember shouting their name, much before, so I'm going to go ahead and guess that Errol is new, and very quickly up to the pace, I would say, with Isaac Rain, one of the front runners of the championship so far. Harry Wills goes to the top of the qualifying. This is qualifying now. We have done practice. They are on their own for this particular qualifying session. We did dabble at Daytona, I believe it was, with a group qualifying session, but at this, well, I think it's a 3/4 mile track. It's not worth the risk, is it? You might as well give everybody free track and try and get their best times out there.
Yeah, exactly. The draft not going to be necessarily as effective as at Charlotte or Daytona, as you mentioned. This is primarily going to be a low-line dominant track, although if you are able to get the car working just right, you can definitely send some moves around the outside, but look for that low line being key. A lot of drivers going to be flirting down with that yellow apron line throughout the day. It is a wide track, so there is plenty of room to slide up and around, but look for that chrome horn to be put out a little bit. That is one of the signatures of NASCAR racing, maybe a little bit of a bump and run, pushing somebody up the track a little bit to get that position once we get up and go racing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was wondering what your opinion was in terms of the slipstream effect and what that might do to a few people, because obviously we're hoping that we have a little bit more green flag running, DJ. Are we expecting the fact that you can't go 2 wide everywhere or 3 wide everywhere almost to play into the advantage of people have to be a little bit more patient? We might not see people going as gung-ho, and as a consequence, probably won't end up seeing them crash as often, we hope.
Indeed, as looks like qualifying's just about wrapping up around here. We do have Matthew Heatrick and Stuart Reynolds that have not set a time, but very, very close times, as you can imagine. The entire field only separated by about 0.8 of a second. That's what you would expect from this entire situation here for that. But while we've got a little bit of time, I want to go ahead and thank our sponsors for this for the day. First off, Go for the Gap, which is an amazing Etsy store with some truly spectacular artwork out there. Go check them out. Just Google them. They are on Etsy. Some very, very beautiful, beautiful pieces, and a few that I keep threatening to add to my room once I save up enough, and I don't even need to save up that much. It's all reasonably priced, especially for motorsports art. Also, SIM3D, makers of some very high-profile, high-quality sim racing hardware. But we do have a car out on track right now. That's Matthew Hetrick, who's been able to bump his way up into P4 right now. You see his lines coming through the corner, taking a very late apex, trying to carry as much speed in as possible. That's really the line you're going to want to be taking around here, if at all possible.
Yeah, so clearly Hetrick and actually Stuart Reynolds, who's yet to qualify, clearly waiting until everybody's done their lap times, seeing what they need to do to beat it, and going out there and trying their best, as I believe Hetrick is he slowing down now? Has he already done his 2 laps? That's how quick it is round here, isn't it? You only get 2 laps in qualifying. They are done in 40 seconds. You can do your qualifying stint in less than a minute. Stuart Reynolds is out there somewhere. We might have to wait for him to finish his first lap before we... In fact, no, there he is, actually, the number 35 car. My apologies. He was just going at such slower to build the speed up, build the car up, get the heat in the tyres as per usual. Maybe even they were playing around with the setup going into qualifying. As we see a big slide from Stuart Reynolds, that's not going to help him go very quickly. He will have one more lap, but that could have even cooked the tyres a little bit on the rear. We could be seeing a bit of a slow one here, as actually he's just decided to give up the ghost. So Stuart Reynolds won't be qualifying. It means he'll start right at the back of the field, but that's not that far back, to be fair, DJ, today.
No, it's not. Only 13 entrants here today, so definitely a smaller field out there. And yeah, you mentioned about him sliding through there. A little bit easy to do if you just carry a little bit too much speed through the corners. You are going to be using the brake pedal here to slow these big NASCAR next-gen cars down. And if you catch that turning a little bit wrong, you've got a little bit too much lock put into the steering wheel. Very easy to lock up those rear brake discs, get the car a little bit sideways. The other thing you mentioned that is going to be important is that tire temperature. It is a night race out here. We're running the playoff style format here in Richmond, as that race normally comes on later on in the season. Only 82 degrees Fahrenheit out on track, so not too toasty. Drivers should be able to keep those tires really in that Goldilocks zone throughout the race.
And we're hoping that we see them have to green flag pit for those tyres as well a bit later on. Obviously, we're just waiting for qualifying to tick down, even though all the drivers have qualified. It's just how iRacing likes to do it. But we're hoping for green flag pit stops. And so we can properly see the strategy, properly see the degradation that might happen on these tyres. Sometimes a short track, you can do a lot of laps before you have to pit in, obviously, because the laps are very quick. However, because the laps are so quick and the turns are so aggressive, we might see more degradation than we see in a super speedway like Daytona. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that sort of develops through the entirety of the race and how that maybe plays on people's minds. Because quite a lot of the time what we see, DJ, in NASCAR is we see them going for as long as they possibly can on the tyres, even if they're dying a little bit and they're dropping off the edge, just in case there's that pit stop period where a driver can come in and change the tyres without having to lose too much time to everybody else.
Exactly, and on a short track like this, if you come in and you pit under green, you're going to be going 2, maybe even 3 laps down. So watch for drivers to be waiting for a safety period to really be able to come down. They're going to be waiting for that yellow flag to come down. You do not want to have to pit under green unless you absolutely have to. Now, 133 laps out here today in order for us, and I know that may sound like a lot to some of our European viewers, but rest assured, if we run green to green on this, that is going to fly at you. With that, you said about 22-second lap times being put down here today.
Yeah, and if you add in the slipstream, which isn't as much, like you said before, but it just, again, the laps will fly by. And that's what we're hoping for, because as you said, Charlotte was a bit of a crash fest, really. There's no sort of hiding it. Apparently the US broadcast that Dave Christie was on a little bit later on was apparently they had even more safety car periods, pace car periods even though, I should say. So what we're hoping for is today we get a little bit more of a flow for the race. And with less cars, fingers crossed that may come up indeed. But I believe, DJ, you can take us through the grid.
I can indeed. And there you see Harry Wills lining up in pole position. Isaac Rain going to be to his outside. Ariel Yorksoy will be in P3, followed by Matthew Heatrick. Kevin Stam will be in P5 with Brandon Hughes flanking him, with George Hill and Rich Matthews in row 4. Row 5 is going to be Mark Redford and Jeff Browning, with Dion Neumveld and Gerard Wareham in 12th. And rounding out the back of the field, it will be Stuart Reynolds in 13th.
So like you said, not a massive grid, but equally, hopefully, a very competitive one. If qualifying is anything to go by, then we already seen that the times are very close to each other, especially on a short circuit. It's what you come to expect, but even then, they're still ridiculously close. So yeah, looking forward to this one, DJ. And well, the pace car is not going to be out there for too long, is it, on this warm-up lap? So it's about time we even now start thinking about going racing.
Yeah, it is indeed. There you can see the lights up on your screen. Everybody just jockeying for position, as we said, especially early on. Drivers going to be down to the inside. That's going to be that preferred line to go. We may see some drivers opting to go high to try to save the tires a little bit. Maybe they're going to have one more lap of pacing around here. These short tracks do have those 2 laps, so everybody being nice and careful as they go. And now they start to line up as they cross over that start-finish line. Again, 133 laps out here at Richmond, a packed house, and we want to thank you for joining us here on Absolute Sim Racing for the WSL NASCAR Series EU edition. Harry Willis and Isaac Rain going to be making up that front row. They work their way onto the backstretch perfectly flat out here, as opposed to some of the other circuits that we see. And then you get into the banking of these corners, not very highly banked, relatively flat, relatively being a little bit of a different term there. But that pace car is going to pull off into pit lane, giving control of the field over to Harry Wills as he gets into that start zone, waiting for the green flag to fly. And there is the green. We are racing in Richmond. It is a good start for Wills. Isaac Rain, though, already looking to his inside, trying to take that away. The field fanning out behind him. That's going to be a good little move down there by Harry Wills. Thought about trying to throw a little bit of a slide job, was Isaac Rain, but not able to get it done. They line in single file as they work their way down in 3 and 4 for the first time.
Yeah, actually, it was a really good start by Harry Wills, but then for some reason went to the outside of the circuit, which allowed Isaac Rain to just slot back up the inside. Maybe Harry Wills is going for that longer game. Maybe he's going to save some tyres, trying to get into the slipstream. Maybe also save some fuel. We'll have to wait and see, of course. But we have gotten through the first lap without a pace car, so touch wood, we can get through the next 133 as well, as the 95 starts to superglue himself to the back of the 63 of Isaac Rain. Ericsoy? I'm not entirely sure how you say that. Apologies, Errol, in 3rd place if I butcher your name through the rest of this broadcast. I'm going to call you Errol, just in case I do butcher the second name. He's had a fantastic start into 3rd place, but his teammate, Heatrick, is not too far behind him. The front 3, right in your shot there, you have to say there's a bit of a gap between 2nd and 3rd, but that could easily dissipate.
Yeah, it certainly could, especially if Rain and Willis start fighting a little bit here. Start fighting a little bit here. And I thought it was a little bit interesting. I was watching Matthew Heatrick on the previous couple of laps. He was running that car a little bit high into the corner, running a crossover line to just see if he could carry a little bit more speed downhill through these moderately banked turns. That could be a good strategy to try to get that crossover, get that car down to the low side. But right now, it just seems like everybody's a little bit content to just run in line here. Not push too hard. Good run off at the corner there, though, for Wills. That may have been a little bit of contact into the outside wall, but it looks like he's able to contain everything under him.
Yeah, exactly. It was a little bit touch and go there, but he has managed to keep it all together. I've just realised a driver I believe we're actually looking at right now, 77, Mark Redford. I knew the name. I was commentating on him yesterday. He was in a Honda Civic, doing the Civic Cup with VRRC, actually, with I commentate on a Wednesday night. And I knew I recognised the livery, and I didn't think it was because I saw him previously at VRRC. But here he is today. Apparently, his son, Will Redford, a very, very quick Civic Cup real-life driver, which I had the pleasure of opening the season on Monday, the bank holiday that's just gone here in England. They did a fantastic job as well at Cadwell Park, and Mark Redford is the dad, I believe, as he's being slightly attacked and overtaken here. As who's that jumping out into the inside line? Maybe just a bit of a snap of oversteer from the 59 of Jeff Browning, who's being overtaken by the likes of, is that the 64? And indeed it is, Rich Matthews.
Yeah, Matthews trying to make that work around the outside there a little bit. This is some of the side-by-side we've come to expect. This is going to be Matthews holding on to that momentum around the high side. That's going to be the 59 there of Browning trying to make it work down on the low side, and that did not work out for Browning. That's going to open up the door for Dion Newbeld to be able to come down to the inside as they go into 3 and 4, and that's one of the things that can happen here at Richmond. If you get out of that groove, you get out of that rhythm, you can find yourself getting freight trained very, very easy as we jump back up here. This is, I believe, the 33 machine. Brandon Hughes with Stuart Reynolds stalking him down. A little bit of a move right in front of him, though. That's Redford and Hill.
Yeah, Hill actually just lost out massively there. And like you mentioned, Redford actually went a little bit deep. Contact with the outside wall as well. So Hill could be coming back to attack him. And there's already a swap for position. Yes, no, maybe. I don't know. Can you repeat the question? Name that favourite. Name the reference. No, but it didn't look like Hill was actually able to answer back. Redford managed to stay just ahead of them as they round lap 10.
Yeah, everybody keeping it nice and clean here. A little bit of a counter to what we talked about last time out in Charlotte. Already 10 laps in the books. A little bit of a move down to the inside there. That looks to be, I believe, George Hill trying to make a little bit of a move there on the 35 of Stuart Reynolds. And now it's going to be that 35 up to the high side. Excuse me, that's the 33 up to the high side. That's Rich Matthews and Brandon Hughes. 35, 33 working their way around. This is some of the side-by-side action that you can see here at Richmond. That 35 really trying to dig the corner down. Now what you really want to do here is throw a little bit of dirt track action sometimes, throw a little bit of a slide job, and there's the counter. Almost a little bit of contact there with Hughes into the back, but he backed off of it. Is he going to have enough of a run to try to push the 35 up the track? He is going to get up the track, but he's going to be able to hold that momentum and put Stuart Reynolds up 5 positions, is now maybe 6, as he's already getting by George Hill.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect Reynolds to hold it, though, because this battle is so intense and a lot of drivers will just be throwing it left, right and centre and up the inside. Mark Redford's managed to get back past as Hill slams on the brakes. Reynolds runs a little bit wide, runs a little bit high as well, and Hill slots back up the inside of him. So it's a really good racing, but it just goes to show that this is Richmond here is a little bit more tricky to drive than the likes of the super speedways at Daytona. Well, I say trickier. It's a different style of NASCAR racing, isn't it, DJ? It's not all about running left, right, and slipstreaming. It's more about lunging into the corners. It's almost a lot more like track racing that we come to see in the GT world or in Formula 1 or open wheel stuff. It's very interesting to see how these drivers are actually coping with it. And at the moment, the battle for 8th place and 7th place, they're just swapping constantly as we jump back to the race lead.
Exactly, and I often tell folks who aren't really used to oval racing and what that's like, and they always think of Daytona and Talladega and Indianapolis. Well, Indianapolis is its own outlier. I'm from Indianapolis. That's my special place. But, looking at NASCAR races, you look at Daytona, you look at those things, that is a completely different style of racing. Short track racing here in NASCAR is absolutely fantastic. You get these side-by-side battles. You get that sort of strategy that you talked about, trying to fake out another driver. Little bit of a close run there with Brandon Hughes coming up behind George Hill, and you really have to get into the mindset of the driver up ahead of him to see if you can force them off and around. Jumping back here to the 59 machine, that's Jeff Browning. Rich Matthews in the 64 trying to have a little bit of a work on the outside. I think Browning had to back off a little bit through the corner. He's going to have to re-rack and try again here.
He is indeed, yes. The John Deere just ahead of them, isn't it? Just ahead of this little battle. The 59 of Browning, the John Deere car, does look very... I wouldn't say... It's going a bit quicker than a tractor, I have to admit, though. It's looking smart, though, as we jump to this number 6 of Kevin Stam. Currently top 5 battle this, even though he says he's the number 6. It can be a little bit confusing, but actually Mark Redford is a driver who is in 6th position and wanting to take that top 5 spot away from Stam. And in fact, actually, Redford is really on the march here. He's always up 4 positions if he can make this move stick, which he does. So he moves into the top 5, and as I said, that's moving up 6 positions. The second most amount of positions gained since the start, compared to Stuart Reynolds, who's gained 6. But Redford hasn't had this done just yet, as Stam runs wide yet again.
Yeah, and Stam really running a good line there. You see just how high up the track he is going there. He's trying to carry as much momentum as possible. When you run that high line, you don't have to use the brakes as much. You carry more speed through the corner, but obviously it is a longer distance from point A to point B, and sometimes it can certainly prove to your advantage. The other trick of it is that you're going to save your tires a little bit more if you're doing it, because you're not having to make quite narrow of a radius around the corner down to the apex. So we could see that play off a little bit more in the race. Right now, though, it does look like that Redford is going to be able to hold him at bay for the moment. Stam might have a little bit of a problem there from the 35 behind of Stuart Reynolds, who is on that charge. He looks like he's got some good grip down on the low line, going to power across the start-finish line and try to take that position away from Stam.
Yeah, Stam's just leaking positions at the moment, isn't he, with this sort of slightly higher line. He's getting caught out and mugged. But like you mentioned, there's every opportunity that he's actually saving his tyres somewhat. And one would argue that if he's sort of coasting through the corners instead of heavy braking into them and having to accelerate out of them, then he would be saving his fuel. But that's not how iRacing works, and I'll explain that a little bit later in the broadcast if maybe we get a pace car period. Browning and Neuveld, this is, right, fighting for the top 10. Browning then making that move and making it a little bit easier than maybe Neuveld would have wanted. But either way, there's always that opportunity to have a little bit of a bite back, isn't there, as we've seen plenty of times here this race.
And you just saw Neuveld do something there that may come over the course of the race. He got a little bit too far down. He just clipped that yellow line down on the apron, and you saw that 59 machine get a little bit sideways. Excuse me, that was Jeff Browning that did that. Get a little bit sideways coming through the corner. You have got to flirt with that yellow line, but you cannot cross over it. The change in camber there between the banked asphalt and the flat apron will really throw these cars off. That is a good catch from Browning to be able to hold on to that, but that is going to be a warning shot. He cannot keep doing that.
It's the same at every racetrack, every NASCAR sort of oval, isn't it, really? It's the fact that as soon as you touch that, it can really, really upset the car. It's less aggressive, the less cambered that the track is, and obviously Richmond is one of those tracks that is slightly less aggressively cambered on the corners, but like you mentioned, DJ, there's always that threat, and there's always that possibility. You basically, if you touch it, you're running a very high risk. You're basically asking the car to be kicked away from you, and obviously that can end in disaster, which I'm amazed to say it hasn't happened so far for the majority of this race. Redford has gotten past Heatrick, and Redford is absolutely on a charge. He's gone for the high line, though, and left the door open for Heatrick onto the inside. Not sure if he really thought that one through, but he certainly left the door open as he carries a lot of speed around that sort of midline. I wouldn't really call it the high line just yet, as Redford makes that move done and dusted. Now darts back over towards the yellow line. Fair play to Redford. He's absolutely making moves here.
Yeah, it really is. A little bit of contact there with the outside wall. That's going to hurt him, and that's going to allow for the 35 there to Stuart Reynolds to maybe have a little bit of a move. He's going to muscle his way forward, checks himself up. No contact there that he wants to get into, but he's going to start to push himself forward. And one of the things there that we saw that 77 of Mark Redford do that can really make that outside line work is he pinched down a little bit on corner exit, prevented that inside car from really driving up the track and carrying full momentum. If you are able to do that, if you are able to make that car behind check up a little bit, that is really going to allow you to be able to get power off of the high line. You can't just run the high line and stay high. You've got to be aggressive on corner exit to prevent that from happening.
It's all part of those sort of techniques and that racecraft that people, I don't think, give NASCAR enough appreciation about, in my opinion, especially over here in Europe. You just sort of think about it, oh, everybody's just turning left constantly, and that's what you're doing. It's flat out constantly. It's not. It's a lot of mind games. There's a lot of car positioning that's really important. Is this the first pit stop we're going to see? Indeed it is. So this is, in fact, we've got a few coming in at the same time. Harry Wills and Errol Ruxey is into the pit lane. How are they going to get on with this one? How many laps are they going to lose? And will there be a safety car that might come around and bite them?
Well, this is going to put them in what we like to call the danger zone, that if there is a safety car that comes out and puts them a couple of laps down, they are going to have to fight to be able to get those positions back. Now, remember, this series does have lucky dogs, but with such a short track like Richmond, you're not only going to be one lap down, you're going to be 2, 3, laps down as it goes along. But as they come down pit lane trying for that alternate strategy, we check in on the battle for P2 right now. Mark Redford being closed in by Stuart Reynolds. Reynolds running a very, very good race, up 10 positions, as there we see the 63 in and out of pit lane.
Yeah, how is the 95 going to get on, though? It's been in there for quite a while. 35 seconds now, which is already over one lap. Like we mentioned, lap only being about 23 seconds here in the actual race. So this is a long time for one particular car to be standing still. Must be taking tyres, but we didn't see the car go up on its jacks. So I'm a bit curious on this one, or whether it's actually fuel that he's had to come into pit lane. But he is only 33, 34 laps in. I would imagine it's not fuel. As he comes back out, he spent a full 55 seconds, 55.12 to be precise, in the pit lane there, and he comes out ahead of the battle for, that is Mark Redford, battle for second place, isn't it, at the moment? How many laps down is he, though? He's only 1 or 2, he's 2 laps down from Mark Redford, he's 3 laps down from Isaac Rain!
That was the 95 getting all kinds of sideways coming across the start-finish line. He better be thanking his lucky stars and rubbing his rabbit feet that he did not end up in the wall. We stay green here at Richmond.
We do indeed, but for how much longer? Because just behind these guys, with the battle for second, is Mark Redford, Stuart Reynolds and Brandon Hughes, who are very much getting very interested in each other. Going sideways, you see a big snap of the wheel again by Harry Wills. And I'm wondering, is this just a case of trying to get the car up to temperature, or is it a case of the tyres going off? As I said, we didn't entirely see him go for tyres, although that might be just the fact that we had to flit away from him and we missed it. But whatever it is, it looks like Harry Wills is struggling.
Yeah, it certainly does. I frankly think Harry may not have come down for tires. That may have been a fuel-only pit stop. And, whoa, as there he gets very squirrely up into the wall. He's going to try to keep it going, but my bat signal is tingling, and indeed, we have our first caution of the day.
Well, I mean, just over quarter of the way through this race, actually, I'm relatively impressed. And I just want everybody to move out of the way. He will be able to see everyone that's coming at him, which, one, will be a terrifying sight, but also be slightly comforting, because at least now he knows that there's going to be a gap and he can get the car back going. But how many laps down is he going to be now? In fact, since we're on board with him, our timing tower is actually saying he's now 4 laps down from the likes of Isaac Rain, Mark Redford and Stuart Reynolds. So it took him a full lap to even start facing the right way again. Huge disappointment for Harry Wills. And even if everybody else pitted under green flag conditions, which of course they're not because they're going to come in now, he would still be at least 1 lap down. This is going to really hurt him.
Yeah, indeed it is, and it looks like all the drivers here on the lead lap coming down pit lane. Rain, Redford, Reynolds, Stam, Heatrick, Hughes, Browning, Hill, Newbold, and Matthews. Now, for those unfamiliar for the way that yellow flag periods work on an oval, the first lap of caution, the first time that the pit lane is open, only drivers on the lead lap are allowed to come down. The second time the pace car crosses over, then drivers who are laps down are able to come in. So that's why that changes things up a little bit. Isaac Rain, though, able to continue out. He is going to be in first place. Looks like Mark Redford, Kevin Stam, Stuart Reynolds, and Matthew Heatrick will round out your top 5 as they come off of pit lane. Pit stops all around the 14, 15 second area. I would anticipate that is a tire stop as well as fuel.
Indeed, indeed. So, I mean, they might as well take the tyres, mightn't they, at this point? Because, as you said, they're just not losing that amount of time. Harry Wills, everybody's gotten back out. Harry Wills is still roughly 2 or 3 laps down. We're just waiting. In fact, is that Harry going into the pits? Yes, again, it is. So Harry Wills in the number 95 will be in the pit lane. He was 3 to potentially 4 laps down. He is taking tyres. This will potentially put him down 5 laps, which is just heartbreaking, really. The other slightly ironic thing, DJ, is the fact that the new rule for this particular week is the fact that if you cause a safety car 3 times, as in, let's, for instance, say Harry Wills, because he's caused the first one. If Harry Wills causes a safety car 3 times in this race, he will be disqualified. He'll be asked to park the car on the inside of the circuit, and he'll be disqualified in a way to try and discourage people from sending stupid moves and causing pace cars unnecessarily. The ironic thing is, Harry Wills caused the first pace car period, and the person we need to tell who span is Harry Wills. So we just Dave Christie's just put in our Discord to Harry Wills that Harry Wills has crashed and he's on strike 1. So I don't think that's gone down particularly well.
No, I don't think it is. I think that's a little bit of insult to injury, as it were, as that car looked just very, very squirrely there for Harry. And we saw him have some good speed earlier on, so we'll have to see what he's be able to do here. Now, 4 laps down, that is going to be a big, big area to try to get back up. By the way, we did also hear that the that first round of pit stops, drivers coming in on about lap 33 or so. That is quarter distance in the race. So drivers trying to break up the race into quarters, taking a 3-stop strategy to get them through to the end. But as of now, that strategy relatively negated. Most drivers on a level playing field here. As the lights are out on the iRacing pace car, Isaac Rain will lead this field back to green next time by.
Yeah, so the another big advantage of being on such a short track is that we get such short pace car periods as well. Normally, they last about 1.5 minutes per lap. Now it's about 50 seconds per lap, which is delightful, I would say, because it means we should get back racing sooner rather than later. And in fact, there we go. The pace car comes back in. Isaac Rain to lead them away with Kevin Stam in second place. But look at the jump that Isaac Rain's already got. He's gone. Put the pedal to the metal and absolutely flown away. Kevin Stam hasn't been mugged, shall we say, but he is under attack by Stuart Reynolds, which I think will only really hold each other up, with Matthew Heatrick involved in the action as well. And actually, Kevin Stam's made a really good response with this one. No battle for second place for now, as the 2 teammates fight for third, and Heatrick and Reynolds, so the top 2 are pulled away.
And I was going to give some kudos there to Matthew Heatrick as he sent a mega move around the outside of turn 1. I thought he was going to have that locked into position, but just not able to do it. There we jump back. That's the 33 and the 85. That's Hughes and Redford. Redford down to the inside on the apron. That car's going to spin around, and there is caution number 2.
Yep, and that looked like cold tyres, in my opinion. The DJs looked like... Who is it, actually? It's the number 85, isn't it? And that's Hill. Sorry, apologies. So Hill, George Hill, just didn't look like he got the car up to temper. Didn't look like he was being kind enough to the rear side of his car. And maybe just put his foot down a little bit too hard there, unfortunately. Did he touch the apron? There's an argument that maybe he touched the apron there. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he came down below the line, didn't he? So it might not have been anything to do with his tyres. If he does that at any point during the race, he's probably going to end up in a wall.
Yeah, and you saw him there get sideways about 3/4 of the way through the corner, tried to catch it a little bit, and in the course of that catching, brought the car back down onto the apron again, and that just spun it around. And that's one of the dangers that you've got to run. Now, it looks like the 85 is going to come down here, maybe get a little bit of top off on fuel, probably get a fast repair taken care of. It also looks like that Rich Matthews is going to be coming down as well. In addition, there, I like that call from Rich. He's farther down in the field. If this becomes a fuel-saving race, he's going to have just a little bit more in the tank to be able to try to work his way by some drivers, as there you see the wave around starting to happen. This is the kind of thing that Harry Wills wants to see. If you're Harry Wills in this position, you want yellow after yellow after yellow because you want to get laps back ASAP.
But the lucky dog, correct me if I'm wrong, DJ, the lucky dog only works if you're 1 lap down. If you're 4 laps down, like Harry Wills is, even if he's the next person up to get that lucky dog, he won't be eligible for it. Am I right or am I wrong?
Actually, it is the first driver that is any lap down.
Oh, really? Oh, my apologies. I read that wrong. I thought it just had to be 1 lap down. But no, Harry Wills will be begging for that. I think it was Gerard Wareham who was waived by that particular time. So Harry Wills will be next up if they go to safety car again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of those things in NASCAR that really keeps these races alive, keeps everything exciting, and you can never count anybody out until the end. Now, we're going to bunch back up again here. Rain and Stam going to lead off. Keep your eye on the 4th place car here of Matthew Heatrick in that 96. He looked very, very comfortable around the outside of his teammate, Stuart Reynolds. He may be one to watch out for in this restart, as he may be able to get that move done and move himself up into the podium positions.
Yeah, no, he's going to be very hungry for that particular piece of bread, isn't he? As I have to say, Mark Redford dropped away somewhat during that those pit stops. He has made his way back up to 6th position, but he had dropped all the way down to about 8th or 9th. So even though he had a fantastic start to this race. Maybe he just took too much fuel, or maybe he not took too much fuel, sorry, used too much fuel, didn't quite save it for his car, and that meant he had to hold into the pit lane for a couple of extra seconds, and it cost him a fair few places. But either way, he's sort of got himself back up to 6th position. Still a positive start to the race, up 3 from 9th. But yeah, keep an eye out for Mark Redford. Matthew Heatrick is the only driver out there, actually, who is where he started. He started in 4th. He is currently in 4th position. Arguments could be said that Gerard Wareham is the same. He qualified in 10th and is still in 10th, but I don't count it because he's a lap down.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to have a little bit more work to do to try to get back going, but the field here will come to green on lap 50. We ride on the nose here of Isaac Rain in that 63 machine, who will be bringing the field to green. They will start on his command. He was able to get a good jump over Kevin Stam at the initial outstart of that last restart, but as it worked its way into the second stage, coming down into turn 3 and 4, it looked like Stam was able to get a little bit closer to him, so we're going to want to keep an eye out there on that battle. But as for right now, there goes the pace car scampering off into pit lane, control of the field going over to the 63 of Isaac Rain, waiting, and there he goes. It's another brilliant start there. A little bit of a wheel spin 4 behind for Stuart Reynolds. That's going to cost him a little bit of time, but Rain right now going to be the one to lead this field to green. Reynolds going very, very low down onto almost the apron there. Heatrick following him behind. There's going to be a little bit of a look by Mark Redford in there for 4th.
Yeah, Redford's actually sent it straight up the inside of Heatrick there, hasn't he? So Heatrick going from one of the drivers we were keeping an eye out on to maybe falling victim to leaving the door open. Having said that, he's got a fantastic cutback here on Redford, who is trying to push for the move around the outside. Again, he's trying to close that door on the 96, but I don't think Heatrick is going to fall for it this time, as he gets a little bit squilly, does the number 77, but does make it back down towards the apron. So the move is done and dusted for Mark Redford for the time being. What can he do about Heatrick's teammates and Stuart Reynolds? Will the podium positions open up for him? Well, only time will tell, as Kevin Stam, who, even though he was sort of mugged earlier for going on that high line, is insisting on staying on that high line, even though it looks like Reynolds is very interested in taking that 2nd place off him.
Yeah, it certainly looks like a slower line, but as we said earlier in the broadcast, that high line can save your tires just a little bit, so he may be able to make that work. But Reynolds currently able to make his way up into 3rd place right now. There you see the sort of crossover line now that Stam is starting to run. Starting high, running it low, a little bit like he's trying to fight back against a slide job on a dirt track. There they come. They're out of the final corner, coming across the start-finish line to be working on lap 54. Everybody's starting to pick their lines a little bit, and we've referenced dirt racing a couple of times over the course of the night. On a short track like this, watch out for that dirt-style racing to come into a play. I guarantee you at some point by the end of the night, I'm going to be screaming out slide job like Dale Jr.
I was going to say, it did actually used to be a dirt track, didn't it? As most NASCAR tracks used to be. But Mark Redford, looking around the outside of Stam here, who's decided that's enough's enough. I'm going to go and take the same line that everybody else does, i.e. hug the yellow line on the inside to try and stave off the brutal attack that Mark Redford is doing. Having said that, maybe Stam actually just messed up on that previous corner, because he's back to his traditional line now as they come across the line for the 56th time, or to start the 56th lap, I should say. So Redford really pushing on strong for these podium positions. Stuart Reynolds up 11 positions from the start of this race, which is absolutely fantastic. He's into 2nd place. Obviously, Harry Wills will be slightly disappointed with that, as Mark Redford now has clear air in front of him as Kevin Stam pretty much jumps out of his way.
And a little bit of a wiggle there for Redford coming out of 4, but he's able to keep it together nicely. A little bit of a checkup from behind there from Matthew Heatrick on Kevin Stam. And there is going to be that slide job that we talked about, going low, coming up high. Gets it done there for the 77. Move Mark Reynolds up into, or Mark Redford rather, up into podium contention.
Yeah, a little bit of a touch to the outside wall there, though, might threaten a little look up the inside by Kevin Stam, but it hasn't come off just yet, and that's what they're going to have to be slightly wary of as the tyres start to wear away, as they get a little bit more enthusiastic on the loud pedal. That just scratching the outside of the wall can really cost you a couple of tenths, and when there's only a 22-second lap, 23-second lap, I should say. A couple of tenths here and there is absolutely vital. You don't want to be giving any more time away than you absolutely need to. There we go. His hometown in Warrington is Mark Redford, nest in the woods, and looking for redemption he is, apparently. Not sure redemption for what particularly, but redemption for something anyway. As Kevin Stam just seems to be dropping away just a touch. There's now half a second in between third and fourth.
Yeah, indeed. And you mentioned something interesting there about running up against the outside wall. Remember one of the changes that was put in these NASCAR next-gen cars. As opposed to the Gen 6 cars, these cars are symmetrical. They are the same on either side. And so if you get some damage onto that right side of the car, onto the outside, that's going to affect your balance and stability. It's not like running in the past where you could take a little bit of a lick on one side and be able to get it to work because the cars weren't the same on either side. You've got to be very, very careful. You don't want to pick up any of that damage because it can massively affect not only your turn in, but your turn out, and even the way the car handles under straight line conditions.
I'll be honest, I embarrassingly didn't know that about the particular generations of NASCAR. I wasn't aware that these ones were symmetrical. I always assumed they weren't symmetrical, but I didn't realise they had made them symmetrical. So, yeah, that's a very interesting point. A lot of these drivers may be feeling the heat from that, because we have seen a lot of damage over the course of the last 4 weeks of different cars, and then some drivers trying to push on through the race with those damaged cars because it's easier than coming into the pit lane and taking the long repairs. But maybe it doesn't quite work, because that's a big squirrely moment for not only the 33 of Hughes, but the driver behind as well, of Jeff Browning, who's dropped off significantly after a massive snap of oversteer into the corner.
I'll tell you who's not looking too bad right now, and that is the Kevin Stam right now, who is currently running that high side again, but he's got Matthew Hetrick coming up to the inside. Stam has been able to make that high line work there, but there comes the big move. Big old slide job there coming in from Matthew Hetrick to be able to get that move away. Good stuff.
Yep, so Hetrick gets through, yeah, he is through on Sam, although it's not appearing on our timing tower as that way, which is a bit confusing. Oh, is that Harry Wills potentially unlapping himself?
It is. You are completely right. It is teammates running together. The 95, not the 96 that was able to get that move done. So there is Wills on his redemption drive. Now, he is 4 laps down right now. He is entitled to be able to make those passes and try to push his way forward. That is Matthew Hetrick, his teammate behind him. Big send coming up behind there for the 33 of Brandon Hughes. Not able to get it woed up, but he's certainly able to get that distance to close down a little bit.
I think the reason why we mistaken Harry Wills there was because he was running in a black car earlier, but the paints have clearly fixed themselves. Now he's actually blending in with the rest of his teammates, which isn't particularly helpful from our perspective, but it does give the team their sort of shout-outs that they deserve, as Brandon Hughes, again, looks very interested to go at the inside of Hetrick, who is taking separate lines here. And this is the first time since we've been covering this NASCAR series, DJ, where we've gone to a track and the drivers are taking significantly different lines depending on where they are on the track, where they are battling, and just trying to get the fastest lap time out of anybody, basically. And we often see a high line, a low line, and different trains of cars, but this is the first time where we've seen distinctly different ultimate fastest lap differences in lines, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, it is indeed. And if you look at our lap counter, we're over halfway through in this race. Everything absolutely flying by as we get a caution out on track. It looks like Dion Noonveld in the 81. The cause of that, some pretty heavy damage to the left front of that 81 machine.
Yeah, no, that's not looking very healthy, let's put it that way. It looks very dirty considering this is a completely tarmac track and we don't have any dirt on it. So let's see how he gets on. Oh, it's just a send up the inside of the 64. That's Rich Matthews. And, well, I said that we're having differing lines. Some people going for that early dive bomb. Some people trying to V the corner off a little bit. Some people going for a later apex. Unfortunately, we saw what can happen if those two don't quite coordinate each other. Rich Matthews sent into the wall, and unfortunately Neuveld with a very damaged front end. As we're seeing, is that Isaac Rain coming into the pit lane? It is. Isaac Rain, Stuart Reynolds, Mark Redford, Kevin Stam, Matthew Hetrick, Brandon Hughes. Everybody is probably the quickest way of summarising this coming into the pits. apart from Harry Wills.
And Gerard Wareham, I believe, who is also listed as a lap down, so he will stay out on track. I'm not sure exactly who's going to get that lucky dog. It looks like it's going to be Harry Wills here, so he'll be able to get that position back. But, oh no, it's going to be Wareham, I believe, as they sort of sort themselves around. But that's actually going to be good news there for Dion Neunveld, that he's going to be able to come in, get that fast repair under a yellow flag period. He'll be able to come in and out and not have to worry about it too much, as we now have drivers coming out of pit lane. Looks like Isaac Rain is going to continue to stay in the lead. If my timing is to be believed, Mark Redford is going to be able to hold on to second. Reynolds, Stam, Heatrick rounding out your top 5.
Yeah, so Redford got the jump on Reynolds in the pit window. Stam and Heatrick stayed as they were, so did Brandon Hughes. Gerard Wareham has moved up to 7th position. I'm not sure if because he wasn't on the lead lap, he wasn't eligible to pit in when everybody else did. Don't know whether he's going to jump into the pits now. We'll have to wait out and see. It looks like George Hill is coming out of the pits, which is good, the number 85. Rich Matthews is still in the pit lane, so I don't think Rich Matthews was able to have that fast repair. Maybe he's already had one fast repair, and that's why he's having to stay in there for the time being. Harry Wills didn't pit. He's actually the front of this queue, but the leader is officially Isaac Rain. Even though Harry Wills probably has the pace to be there, he's not. He's 3 laps down still.
Yeah, he's 3 laps down, and I get the sense he's going to stay out. Indeed, he is. He is going to stay out here, take advantage of that lucky dog, so that will put him down to 2 laps down as this race goes along, I believe. And so Harry will be able to take full advantage of that and claw his way back forward. By the way, thank you to Texpelt, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, excuse me, Texpelt88 in the chat, who actually said the most lucky dogs in a single race was Kyle Busch in 2006. He was 5 laps down at Texas or at Watkins Glen, 5 laps down, was able to come home in 9th. So that just goes to show you how helpful those lucky dogs can be.
Yeah, it's a really good addition to any race, I think, to be honest. I'm surprised that more... Well, I don't suppose I'm surprised, because you get less safety cars in sort of track racing, everything like that. But it would be interesting if you sort of got Legends racing or something like that, or pickup truck racing, to have a lucky dog style system in there, whether it would work or not. But I really enjoy it, and it puts on a spectacle, because at the end of the day, NASCAR is basically an entertainment for the fans that obviously turn up. Harry Wills has just driven through the pace car and has gone to catch the back of the field, so he has unlapped himself at least once here at Richmond. I'm not sure if he'll be able to keep going through, because the safety car will come in at the end of this lap, so he'll maybe only able to capitalise and get 1 lap back, which means he'll still be 3 laps down.
Yeah, but he'll still have some more room to be able to make up and to try to gain back up. And we are ready to go back racing again. Isaac Rain down to the inside here as they get ready to take the green flag. The iRacing pace car scampering off into pit lane, waiting for Barney the Flagman. And there goes Isaac Rain. He is on the loud pedal. Redford doesn't exactly get the start he would like behind. Stam and Reynolds going to be absolutely side by side there for 3rd place.
Yep, so Reynolds up the inside, Stam it again. Even, I would say, he's sort of been caught on the outside there, but that's his natural line by the looks of it. He's still in 3rd, but I think as they dive into turn 3, turn 2, it looks like actually Stam's carried a really good amount of pace there. Reynolds hasn't been there. Oh, that is why Stam carried so much pace through turn 4. He carried too much pace and ended up almost oversteering into the wall. He did well to keep out of it, to be honest, but he has lost out for Reynolds. He's lost out to Hughes, and he may well lose out to Heatrick as well in the when the time comes round to it. Hughes going I wouldn't say defensive, but actually he's gone for a really early apex. That leaves the door wide open for Heatrick to try and fly one up the inside of them both. And I think Hughes probably was looking in his mirrors rather than concentrating on the drives ahead of him, as Stam now has to slot in and be happy with 6th position. Heatrick's going past Hughes already as the 63 just behind them. Not entirely sure who that is, actually, who's chasing them down, but it's getting very, very close.
It's getting very, very close indeed. In the 33 and the 96, they're creating a little bit of a roadblock for these drivers behind. I believe that's Errol Yerksoy there in that 61 machine. It's labeled as the 63 there on your screen. There we see the number 6 of Kevin Stam picking a lane, coming down to the inside of Brandon Hughes. Is he going to be able to get the drive off the line and down into the corner? Tries to force Hughes up just a little bit more. That's some good strategy there, but Hughes not going to back down from it. He's going to continue to try to carry that momentum up around the outside. They're going to continue to be 2 by 2 as they go down into 1.
Yeah, this is fantastic stuff, isn't it? We were a bit scared that the safety car might have to come back straight back out because it did last time, but we managed to go green for a fair few laps, and already they're starting to sort themselves out, but equally provide us with some absolutely brilliant racing so far. Errol Yerksoy,
Indeed, he does. I thought he was going to throw a little bit of a slide job there coming out of 2, but decided not to do it. Now he's going to be able to run his own race and try to close down the 2.1 seconds up the road that lead up to Mark Redford and maybe claim a podium position out of this. Behind them, we've got a little bit of side-by-side between Heatrick and Errol Yerksoy as they go down into the corner. That is going to be Heatrick way to the outside. There's that slide job from Errol Yerksoy. Great job to be able to came on to P5.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic battle, isn't it? As we're keeping the focus on Kevin Stam, but we can see right in the back, the battle for 5th position is Brandon Hughes getting involved as well, as it looks like Heat Trick has just been mugged by multiple drivers. Now Jeff Browning's gone through. In fact, Brandon Hughes has gotten through on Uruksoi as well. So it's all happening in the battle for top 5. And in fact, there it is on our screens now. Fantastic stuff. So, what can be done about the charging 33 of Hughes? Can Uruksoi fly around the outside? Can Browning upset maybe the apple cart and stick it up the inside of all of them? This one's going to go down to the wire, I think, DJ. 102 laps in of a 133 lap race.
Indeed, and we're starting to see some elbows come out a little bit more here. Brandon Hughes and Errol Yerksoy, well, they didn't hit each other. They didn't necessarily make contact, but what they did is rub. And my friends, rubbing is racing when it comes to NASCAR. This is where you start to get that chrome horn out, maybe try to push a car up the track a little bit to try to get that valuable track position.
Yeah, no, it's all about those sort of little mind games that you start playing now, isn't it? As you said, rubbing is racing in NASCAR. Look at that from Browning. That is, more than anything, that is a bit of mind games to try and fill the inside left of Uruksoi, just trying to just put him off his line, make him go a little bit wider, knowing that Browning might well fly up the inside, and that's exactly what Browning has tried to do. Into 6th position, just ahead of Errol, and I believe he's going to have that move all done and dusted because it's a long turn now before Uruksoi could get back on the power and try and answer back. He does get that nice high line, gets a really good exit. In fact, he's back up on the inside of Browning. And indeed, there we go. Browning goes too wide. He touches the outside of the wall as well, and it's ruined his run for this lap now. So Errol has gotten himself back up to 6th place. Browning's going to have to do it all again.
Indeed he is, and a couple of little scuffs and scrapes there on the outside of that car for Browning, but we focus back in on Brandon Hughes, who has about a 0.5 of a second advantage over Errol Yerksoy. Yerksoy is going to be trying to push ahead a little bit. Stam not able to grow that gap nearly as much as I thought. It's still holding at about 0.7 of a second, and the gap up to Mark Redford, well, that continues to be about 2.6 seconds, so everything's staying stationary a little bit here. It looks like these top 3 really able to lock down everything.
Yeah, apparently I'm not sure if we have trackside audio. Apologies if we don't. I believe there's some people on the YouTube chat that's saying that we do, though, which is delightful. So hopefully you're all enjoying back with the full force of the NASCAR here at the WSL EU category. And of course, if you want to get more NASCAR action, then you can tune into the US stream. There's a little bit later on. DJ, I believe you're on that as well.
I am indeed. I've got a double dose of NASCAR. I've got a double dose of Richmond, and I've got a double dose of the WSL NASCAR Series powered by SIM3D and Go for the gap. Big wide run there for the 33 of Brandon Hughes. Barely able to chase that thing off the wall, and that's going to open up a little bit of an opportunity there for the 61 of Errol Yerksoy to try to poke his nose down to the inside. Is he going to be able to get the run off at the corner? He's got the nose, but the momentum's going to come back to the 33. They're going to come down into the corner side by side yet again, looking for a little bit of a slide job. There is Errol Yerksoy. Is he going to be able to get it done? Not an aggressive slider, but he's got the position.
Yeah, Jeff Browning actually had a big moment in the background as he touched the apron, trying to go for the inside of these two drivers. I don't think, well, it hasn't caused a pace car period, which means he managed to get it all collected. There he is in the background. He's trying to push everything to get back at this battle, which obviously he was involved with earlier on, but then obviously it's fallen away from him. 24 laps to go. We know we're getting to the business end of a race when we see the lap time on the left-hand side, say, from 60 laps out of 133 to 24 to go. All start to get a bit heated as the drivers will be fully aware that this race could be well and truly over in the next 10 minutes, and they need to start getting on with it if they want to move up any further positions.
They do indeed. And just to very quickly recap you on who is leading right now, it continues to be Isaac Rain. He's got about a 1.5 gap over Stuart Reynolds right now, and then a massive gap back to Mark Redford. That is 8 seconds right now in a NASCAR racing. That is an eternity. Kevin Stam up in 4th, unable to catch down Redford. That gap continuing to grow, and he still only has about 0.8 of a second back to this man, Errol Yerksoy, who continues to hound around. This is your best battle on the track right now. Really the battle for 5th place. Big send there in the back, I believe, for Browning, and that's Browning up into the wall.
Yeah, Browning with damaged car, but no pace car period, no yellow flags, but Browning has had a bit of a torrid last 10 laps, hasn't he? He's probably hit the wall more than he's hit an apex so far in the last 5 laps alone. It's not going his way, unfortunately, as we're currently on board looking backwards. I believe this is potentially with Stam in the number 6 car in 4th position, looking back at Errol in 5th. In fact, yeah, there we go. I deducted correctly. So Kevin Stam, as I mentioned, looking backwards. Now, Kevin did go on the offensive. He started to look like maybe his car was a little bit more switched on. Maybe it had a little bit more longevity than the cars around him as he charged forward into the top 4. Can that stay that way, though? Uruxoy is in 5th position, and he's charging hard, as well as Hughes. We know how keen Hughes is to try and get in on the action. With 19 to go, there's a big tap of the wall there by Kevin Stam, and that opens the door up for Errol Uruxoy from the 5th position. Go to the inside, and Stam, I think, will have to just take his medicine here. I'm not sure if he's going to have an answer back. He gets a good exit on the higher line, and in fact, there we go. He has his car all the way across now. Will he be able to take that inside line? Yes, he does. Almost going defensive there.
And we've seen that number 6 really be able to position the car wherever he wants to over the course of the track, and I'd be a little bit concerned by that if I was Errol Uruxoy, but Errol going to try to dive down to the inside, giving him space. There is Kevin Stam. They come to the line here with 18 laps to go. Ooh, little brush of the wall there for the number 6, and Errol Uruxoy says, thank you, I will take 4th place away from you, my friend.
Yeah, I think Stam is struggling a little bit now, isn't it? It's a bit like Jeff Browning. I think they've gone a little bit too far on these tyres. Maybe they thought they would hold on to the tyres for long enough, and then that previous pit stop didn't take any new ones. Well, maybe it started to bite them on the backside as Brandon Hughes has caught them both up after they've been battling, and all of a sudden, Stam is looking at conceding another position on the final couple of laps here as Uruxoy has managed to pull away by about a second. Well, maybe about half a second, but probably will be a second by the time this little battle is done and dusted. Brandon Hughes up the inside, and I think 5th position is going to be his over the course of the next 2 laps.
I do indeed, and we've had a couple of comments in our YouTube chat. Love hearing you guys talk to us, talking about using up those tires, as that is again Stam up into the wall. These next-gen tires, they are not nearly as susceptible to tire wear as they are tire overheating. And so what I think we may be seeing here out of the 33 is Hughes just backed off there for the course of about 10 laps, got those tires back down into the optimal temperature range, and now he is in full attack mode. In contrast to that, Kevin Stam, who has been running tooth and nail for the past 10, 15, 20 laps, he is having a little bit of problems here because those tires are overcooked. We watch that little error of his coming out of the corner. I don't think he actually made contact with the wall there, but he definitely had to get off the throttle, check himself up, and then keep going.
Yeah, he was saving himself from the wall, wasn't he? Which actually probably had the same effect, i.e., he slowed all the way down, but he didn't potentially get the damage he might have done if he hit the wall at that speed. Either way, he's still in the race, and a top 6 finish isn't the end of the world, really, in a NASCAR race. I mean, only the top 7 are in the lead lap at the moment, but still, to be on that lead lap, you still, you know, to finish first. First, you have to finish, and all those famous sayings. Isaac Rain has done nothing but, well, finish very well at the moment. I say that, obviously, we haven't finished yet, so touch wood and whatnot, but he's driven superbly, has Isaac, in his little picture there, the Janetta Junior, I believe that is. He's done fantastically well. Nobody's really touched him, DJ. I mean, Reynolds was arguably, well, he was a lot closer. It was about a 1.2 second gap at one point. Last time we saw him, now it's stretched to over 3. So Isaac's done a fantastic job. As I mentioned, nobody seems to have touched him. It's just been basically a practice session for the number 63.
Yeah, it really has. And when you get into a zone around a short track like Richmond like this, it is almost impossible to be able to be broken out of it. He is just driving this car to perfection. You can see the flames spitting out of the side there, probably doing a little bit of downshifting as he comes through the corner. He's got to be a little bit careful here. He's got some lap traffic to come on. That's Jeff Browning and Kevin Stam directly ahead of him. We've seen those drivers there have that over the course of the race that they've got to be in that battle. He'll watch out for him. Excuse me, by the way, I just rode on board with Isaac Rain. He is not shifting. There's the move down to the inside of the lap. Traffic splitting the difference in between himself and Kevin Stam. No, Browning looking like a little bit of a fight back, but I think momentum's going to favor the 63.
You got to question, is that really worth it? But to be fair, he's only got a 3.5 second gap. Isaac Rain can't really be affording to alleviate this. That's Harry Wills. Yeah, I was wondering who that was all of a sudden, but Harry Wills, who went for as long as he possibly could, as he needed to. He was hoping for another pace car period, but it didn't ever come. So he's had to come into the pits just to get some fuel in the car so he can survive this last 8 minutes. This last 8 laps, which should only take us, even if we have a pace car period now, should only take us about 5 minutes. So we are into the dying breaths of this race. And Isaac Rain, as I mentioned, Kevin Stam, again, getting a little bit too close to the wall for comfort. But as I was mentioning, Isaac Rain can't really afford to be held up by this lapped traffic at the moment. As Stam is basically everywhere he doesn't want to be right now, isn't he, DJ? He's in the wall, he's on the apron. It's just not going his way at the end of this race.
No, it is not. That car just does not look good. He's able to touch that inside line there a little bit more. And is this going to be a move from Jeff Browning coming up behind? Browning trying to eye up that number 6 machine as he goes a little bit later down into the corner, trying to follow it. The 59, seeing what he can do. 6 laps, 5 laps to go here at Richmond. And I've got to also say there that Browning's really got nothing to lose. He's got 5 seconds back to Dion Neuveld in 8th place, so he can go in full attack mode here and not have to worry about any counterattack from behind.
Indeed, he can. So as he goes up nice and high, Jeff Browning, can he sweep down to the apex? No, he can't, in fact, because I think he's letting a driver through. Now, who was that driver? Was it Harry Wills, potentially, who's now out of the pit lane? Doesn't really matter, because with 5 to go, we're focusing now on the 35, which is, of course, Stuart Reynolds, who's now following Isaac Rain through in overtaking and lapping all of these cars. So that's why we're starting to get a little bit confused of where everybody is because on track, all the different cars are starting to fall over each other somewhat, which is always very helpful for a commentator. Before we finish this race, a big thank you to everybody who's in the YouTube chat, whoever's watched or liked, subscribed. You're absolutely brilliant people, brilliant human beings. And even if you just watch there silently judging both the commentators and the races, well, we still appreciate your company. So thank you very much. Be sure to subscribe to Absolute Sim Racing or wherever you're watching this from. And you'll be able to catch more NASCAR action in the WSL NASCAR US stream in a couple of hours' time.
Indeed, and I will be on that stream myself with the one and only Kenny Kibbe, with the one and only Austin Belke. So that will be a good time to have as we watch Isaac Rain there crossing over the line. 2 laps to go. Kevin Stam continuing to try to hold off Jeff Browning. He's got that gap built out a little bit more. Rain really doesn't have anything to worry about. He's got clear track up ahead of him. He's been able to lap cars all the way up to P5, P4 of Aero Yerksoy is the car directly ahead of him, but that's not going to be his concern. His concern is what is in the hand of Barney the Flagman, and that is the white flag. 1 lap to go here at Richmond for Isaac Rain. He brings the car down through 1 and 2, beautifully clipping that apex, coming back onto the backstretch for the final time, bringing it down through 3 and 4. He's going to be nice and easy coming out of there. A little bit of a slower car there, but that's not going to matter because Isaac Rain drifts it across the start-finish line to take victory at Richmond.
Yeah, fantastic drive by Isaac Rain. It was impressive. It was imperative that Isaac get that win as well to mount a charge on the championship, which he will do, of course, after this particular round. Fantastic drive by him. And a great drive as well, it has to be said, by the likes of Stuart Reynolds and Mark Redford. They were really very impressive early on in this race. They sort of got the job done about halfway through and all of a sudden just sort of like got themselves into a rhythm and bedded themselves in. But a brilliant entertainment, I would say, was the battle for the top 4 and 5. Yerksoy, Hughes, Stam, Browning all played their part. So did Heat Trick, of course. Harry Wills, unfortunately, didn't really ever get further than about a quarter of the way through this race without it all going a bit Pete Tong. But a great race from all these drivers who have turned up. So big thanks to them. And congratulations particularly to Isaac Rain, who drifted across the line in fashion, like you mentioned, DJ, very impressively.
Very impressive indeed. And there is your official finishing order. Isaac Rain, Stuart Reynolds, and Mark Redford on the podium. We'll be talking to them here in just a little bit of time. Aero Yerksoy in 4th place, the last driver to finish on the lead lap. That is how dominant the Race Anywhere Sim Sports TGR Nation CC driver was out there today. Brandon Hughes was able to come home in 5th, followed by Kevin Stam and Jeff Browning. Dion Noonveld was in 8th with Matthew Hetrick and George Hill 2 laps down. 3 laps down was Gerard Wareham. And obviously we mentioned Harry Wills having a very, very unfortunate day, and Rich Matthews a DNF here on the day. So a very, very hard run there for the TGR driver. But let's go ahead and talk to our 3rd place finisher out there today, Mark Redford. Mark, it looked like a little bit you were just putting in some hot laps there. You didn't really have a lot of pressure from either side of you.
Yeah, at the end of the race, it was just I couldn't stay with the leaders. It was Simon and Stuart. I couldn't stay with them, but obviously I managed to pull away from behind. I was just putting in laps and bringing the car home, really.
Well, you were able to do that pretty well. I mean, were you running into any issues? We were theorizing a little bit that some drivers were having problems with some tires out there. Were you able to keep all of that under control? I mean, was it as pretty simple as it looked?
Yeah, well, I think at the end of that start of that last run, I think I burnt my rear tires up a little bit. I got them too hot. I was trying to look after the fronts, but obviously then trying to get out the corners. And I think my right rear got a bit hot, and that made me almost lose it down the back straight a couple of times. Had to save it. And then I just needed to just try and back off the back tires a little bit and let them cool down. And then I was able to pull away from the car behind.
Well, you did it well. You did it wonderfully. This is going to help you out in the points. We change things up a little bit. We head to the big 2-mile oval of Fontana Auto Club Speedway out in California, my pseudo home track, as it were. How do you like your chances there? Do you like running there? And how do you think it's all going to play out?
Oh, I love it there. I love Fontana. It's one of my favorite tracks. It's a shame that they're going to turn it into a short oval, but hey, there you go. I enjoy running there. It's kind of, I'm not running in this car yet, so hoping it'll be kind of interesting. Usually you have to try and keep a nice smooth line, hold a high speed through the turns, and look after your tires.
Well, I do have good news for you if you're a fan. I have heard some rumors that plan may be scrapped, especially after the race this year was so spectacular. So we may keep old Fontana around.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that's made my day.
Well, good. Mark, outside of making your day, is there anybody you would like to thank for this 3rd place run here?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. Always great to watch back. Harry for putting on an oval league over here in Europe. That's great. We need more of those. A shout out to Nesting the Woods, my sponsor, and a shout out to Will Redford and Luke, his brother, and Samuel and their mum, Sally.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. Everybody, that was Mark Redford, driver of the number 77 in 3rd place here today. All right, and Jack, I think you've got the pleasure of catching up with our dominant winner, Isaac Rain.
Yeah, Isaac, congratulations there on taking the race victory. I mean, did you feel pressure? Normally, a lot of drivers will come off after taking a race victory in NASCAR and they'll be sweating from head to foot. They'll probably stink. They'll probably be thirsty and hungry. But that looked like a bit of a Sunday drive for you.
No, it wasn't that easy. I mean, for some reason, I realised I've developed a habit whenever I'm doing oval racing where I kind of like lean into the corners in my seat. And it's absolutely killed my shoulders over about 133 laps. And I forgot to turn down my direct drive wheel as well, so it was so strong. My whole body's aching. But yeah, I think it was a bit unlucky that Stuart behind me, I think his tyres must have fell off or something, because it looked like he was catching me. But yeah, just long green flag runs, and this car was set up perfectly. I just hope I'm not like Denny Hamlin, where the start of the season's been crap, and then he wins at Richmond, and then he's crap for the rest of it.
Well, I was going to say, hopefully you haven't peaked and you've more sort of plateaued towards the top end of the field. That's always the hope, isn't it? Harry Wills was a big threat early on in the race, wasn't he? Obviously, he qualified on the front row with him. What was your sort of thought process as soon as you saw his car flying into the wall? Because I know you're not going to say, oh, it was brilliant, I loved seeing him crash, but I'm interested to sort of know whether you sort of slightly relaxed or anything like that, because obviously Stuart Reynolds and Mark Redford, they were quite far away from you at that point.
I didn't actually see him crash. To be honest, I thought he had done a lot more practice than me, because tonight was the first time really putting any laps in his car on this track. So I assumed he had a better idea about the strategy. So when he pitted, I thought, should I pit? Should I pit for tyres, or should I wait until a caution comes out? My car still felt pretty fine. So I held it out, and then the caution came. I think I might have put them 2 laps down or something whilst they were in the pits.
Oh, that was it. Yes, apologies. I don't think he did crash, did he? It was just a case of strategy. Yes, apologies about that.
He did crash afterwards. He brought out the caution that allowed me to pit under the...
Of course he did. I've got proper confused then. You made me have a mind blank then. But yes, no, of course he did. Yeah, he brought out the caution, of course.
Yeah, so I never saw it. But from a competitive standpoint, I'd rather have had him up there. I mean, I got a pretty good start and managed to pull away from him. I'm not really sure what his tyres were doing, because I'm surprised they fell off so quickly for him to need to do a pit. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe we'll have a chat with him either today or next week, and we'll find out from the man himself. But a brilliantly dominant performance from you, Isaac. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, I believe some guys from TGR Nation were watching, so thanks to them. And also Rich Matthews, I think he got wrecked out and decided to pull into the pits because he was going to have a 13th place finish anyway, and decided to be my spotter for the rest of the race. So it was very helpful, giving me the gaps to Stuart. And yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do it without him.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations, Isaac. We'll let you go and enjoy the sweet taste of victory.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the broadcast, guys.
Well, thank you, Isaac. That was Isaac Rain, your victor here today. And folks, that's about going to wrap things up for us here on the WSL NASCAR Series EU, powered by SIM3D and Go for the Gap. As always, my name is DJ Clark, joined in the booth by Jack Oliphant, with David Christie behind the scenes as our director and producer. You heard us mention it. Next week, we head to the big, flat, wide open 2-mile oval that is Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. And I have to fully agree with Mark that is one of my favorite circuits in the world. So you're not going to want to miss that. But if you haven't had enough Richmond action, well, come back in about 2 hours' time to the channel, because we're going to reset and do this all over again for the U.S. region. It's going to be myself and Austin Belkey on that call, and the action is going to be just as electric. But as for now, on behalf of World Series Leagues, Go for the Gap, Sim3D, Jack Oliphant, and David Christie, my name is DJ Clark, and until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.